Welcome to beautiful Arizona, where I can sell you oceanfront property. Well, maybe that's what we should have said after this series because the Astros split the series with the Arizona Diamondbacks, who coming into the series were 1-4. The Astros looked to go ahead and take a two-game sweep, get on out of here, go to Seattle, and the Diamondbacks weren't having it. Opportunities were abundant for both teams on bases, but they didn't seem to capitalize. You know what I did? We capitalized by getting Millard Thomas from the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. He's here to discuss this two-game series. It's going to be a fun conversation. Strap your seatbelts on. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Heisman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chansey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros, and we are your daily Astros podcast. I'm H-Town Wheelhouse, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at H-Town Wheelhouse. You can find the show at Locked On Astros on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can find me at Stros411 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Always positive, even when we split with the Diamondbacks, always Stros. And to my right or left, however you're looking at the screen like me or you're watching the show, Millard Thomas, the incomparable host of Locked On Diamondbacks. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brett, for having me. I got to ask, who does your intro? Because I've never heard my name in my intro. I heard Eric the Man Heisman. Where did you get that intro from?
So that is from a guy named Columbus Trey. He is he's a young aspiring African-American filmmaker, graduated with honors from USC. He's got both Houston and LA ties. The dude is a voice actor. Columbus Trey he's an amazing human being. And I just reached out to him one day. I said, hey, can we grab your voice as the intro? He said, man, I would love to do it. And we were allowed to keep his voice as our intro. And because he did a favor for us, Locked On did a favor for us as well to keep it. So that's who it is, Columbus Trey. You can actually find him on Twitter.
Okay, I might have to reach out to him because that was pretty sick. I might need a little nickname for myself for the Millard Thomas Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. But hey, we got a great series to talk about because I would like to think if aliens came down from the stars and never watched these two teams before, if they just watched this series, they probably would have thought these two teams are on the same playing field.
When we left winning 3 of the 4 games in Los Angeles, Joe Madden claimed that that we and the Angels were very close, that we're very comparable. And now we don't have Trout, we don't have Ohtani, we don't have Rendon, but Noah Syndergaard in his own right pitched a great game coming back. You'd love to see a guy come back from injury do that. But yeah, baseball is funny. If you get too close to it, be careful because it's going to break your heart. And if you would have told me the series was going to go the way it did, I would have said there's no way. Like, we come into Arizona, we easily win these first 2 games. We probably put up 7, 8, 9 runs, put up a crooked number in both games. Maybe Arizona competes in one game, and then c'est la vie, we're out of town. But that didn't happen. It seemed like it was this classic 1980s pitcher's duel.
Yeah, if you watched the first game with Madison Bumgarner on the mound, before that game, I would have maybe agreed with you, Brett. Like, yeah, you might get 7 or 8 against Madison Bumgarner tonight. But the game 2 with Merrill Kelly on the mound, I've been pounding the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. He's going to have a great bounce back season from last year. We're going to get 2020 Kelly back. He's going to pitch to around a 3.5 ERA because I truly believe Kelly's one of the most underrated arms in baseball. I'm not saying he's a frontline starter or anything like that, but is he a pretty good number 3, number 4 starter in rotation? I think he is. And we've seen it through 2 starts already. Once against the San Diego Padres, where he struck out 7 in 4 innings. And then today, he looked really good and really dominant against that Houston Astros lineup, who, despite not having Carlos Correa anymore, I still like that lineup a lot. I still think you got boppers up and down that lineup, and you still have to respect their offense a lot.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, we were down Yordan Alvarez due to a stomach bug. Yuli had been on paternity leave. Maybe there's some issues there with him just coming back, having a slow start. And to me, Millard, it almost looks like, because someone made this comment and I was thinking about it online, and if I knew who it was, I would totally give them credit. But they said it's almost like our bats are in spring training mode right now. Because, Dusty Baker has been putting out these lineups and these helter-skelter, like this guy leads off, this guy is at the bottom, this guy's, like Siri has a great game and then he sits and all this stuff. And I think they're overcoaching matchups a little bit. I love going with the hot hand, giving a guy a couple days to get in a groove. But also, I wasn't on deck when Hank Aaron hit the record home run. So I don't really have a whole lot of change in my pocket to criticize. But at the end of the day, I mean, the bats just didn't show up. That lineup that you talk about that is so potent, it when it goes away, it absolutely vanishes. After that 13-run game in Los Angeles, we haven't really done much offensively.
Yeah, I think the spring training point is a good one because that's kind of the excuse I'm clutching my pearls to as well because I don't have anything else if it's not extended spring training. And it might not be, but I would like to think it is because even guys like Ketel Marte, who we know is an established superstar player in baseball, even he can't get it done. I mean, he had a sac fly today for the walk-off win, and he only got it. Well, he didn't only get it. It would have been deep enough to score the run, but you see the error by the outfielder out there. So for the D-backs, I think the spring training point, it's a good one, not only because of the D-backs, because you look around the entire Major League Baseball Association, and this is going on with pretty much all the teams. Like we saw today with the LA Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw had a perfect game through 7 innings, and what did Dave Roberts do? He pulled Kershaw, which Kershaw also agreed with because let's face it, the man is like almost 40 years old, and he needs to rest that arm. So he can't go out there and pitch 100 plus pitches in his starting debut of 2022. So I think we're going to see this a lot in baseball, at least through the first couple turns in the rotation, first 2 or 3 starts. You're going to see your pitchers maybe not go out there and throw as many pitches as you would like. We saw that with Luis Garcia in game 1. And also your batters, they might start off slow. Now, when it's not every batter, I mean, we saw Vlad Guerrero Jr. tonight just hit 3 bombs. So not every player
Wow.
is going to start off slow. But I think some teams like the D-backs and Astros, I think it's okay if we use the excuse that this is just extended spring training and our batters need a little bit more time to get acclimated.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we have to realize. For us, as commentators or fans or just people that really have never touched a major league diamond unless we maybe ran the bases as kids or if some of us get to report before games, like we don't fully understand the grind that they go through, the evening games, the night games, the traveling, the not going through regular spring training. We think that's where a lot of the injuries popped up last year. Especially, and you had that COVID shortened season, you had those issues and just anything you do to take the pitchers or the players out of their routine. I mean, just for example, when they took away the spider tack midway through the season, I was like, why are you taking something away that they're completely used to using halfway through the season? Like you can't change these guys' routine, and they're not all spring chickens. They're not all Wander Francos. They're not all Vlad Guerrero Juniors, but even the young guys. And I think sometimes the young guys might tend to get hurt more because you're Justin Verlanders are more seasoned. Your Madison Bumgarners, your Clayton Kershaws, your Zach Greinke's, they know how to take on the workload. They don't have that pride. They're not going to go out there and grind and hurt themselves over a win or a loss this early in the season. But yeah, today's game, I mean, you look at it, Luis Garcia, I mean, Framber Valdez on the mound, just control issues. I think I tweeted out earlier of his first 50 pitches or so. He had most of them were like over half of them were outside of the zone. Whenever he is not locating his curveball, because he only threw like three fastballs. His changeup wasn't hitting, his curveball wasn't hitting. And Millard, we talked about this with Mike Stanton, World Series champion and current Astros commentator, about his delivery and the way he holds the ball, the way he turns his wrist. I mean, everything is arm slot. When it's not in rhythm, it throws everything off because in some of those, he wasn't missing by much. But when you look at the box score, and I'm looking who he's going against, Kelly, who I didn't know anything about, and I'm like, oh, Framber's got this in the bag. Framber had 3 strikeouts, 5 walks, only gave up 2 hits and only 1 run. So you're like, okay, we can handle the walks and 1 run. Hey, you're going to go win that, right? Well, no, the other guy, your guy, 5 1/3 innings. Framber only went 3 innings. Dude, 2 walks, but listen to this, 6 strikeouts. This kid goes out there and he looks like the seasoned veteran taking on Framber Valdez, who really had a great start to the year. And oh, how the turntables, to quote Michael Scott.
Yeah, because Merrill Kelly's like 32. He's like in his early 30s, but it's only his 4th season in Major League Baseball. This was a guy signed out of the Korean League like 4 years ago. So he's still, even though he's in his early 30s, he's still pretty young in terms of his experience in playing baseball. But I think I think Framber Valdez really needed Brent Strom today to help coach him up. But the problem is,
Mm.
he's not in that Astros dugout anymore. You know which dugout he's in, Brett? He's in that D-backs dugout
Are
helping out
you
the
well, hold on.
D-backs pitchers.
Are you trying to rub it in?
I'm
Like
not, I mean,
we
this guy. I mean, do you know
he's a
what we're paying Matt?
magician.
Do you know what we're paying Madison Bumgarner, Brett? Did you see what he did against your team yesterday? That's not possible without Brent Strom. I don't care if Madison Bumgarner struggled in his first start and looked good yesterday, but not great. Still, on the season, Madison Bumgarner has only given up 2 earned runs in 9 innings pitched. If you told me that before the start of the season, through his first 2 starts, only 2 earned runs, I would say, let's give Brent Strom the Cy Young Award because that's how important he's been to the staff so far. So,
So we
I,
can
yeah.
so we can blame Brent Strom when y'all win too many games and don't get that top draft pick, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to make the postseason. I'm not about draft picks. If anyone's listening to Locked On Diamondbacks, I'm not the prospect guy. Don't go to Locked On MLB Prospects with Lindsey Crosby. I want to see tangible players. I want to see guys on the major league level. Most of those prospects we don't see for 3 to 5 years anyway. So give me the legit MLB talent. And
I like it.
so when I look at this game today, I don't know if it was a pitching duel because I think the D-backs could have won this game convincingly, but even though Framber Valdez struggled, the D-backs were not able to capitalize at all during this game. They were 1 for 13 with runners in scoring position. And the one run that they knocked in was that Seth Beer single in the 10th inning where they had 3 dudes shifted over and he still just hit a freaking missile because Seth Beer has the clutch gene, walk off in the first game. He had a single when we were down a couple games ago, and then he had the single to tie it up today. That dude is clutch. And when I look at that D-backs team, they should have scored a lot more runs today than what they put up. It felt like Framber Valdez put 2 guys on the base paths every inning almost. Every time I
He
looked up,
did.
it felt like first and second with 1 or 2 runs and with 1 or 2 outs. And the D-backs were never able to capitalize. You had that big moment with the bases loaded. Carson Kelly up at the plate. The man has been over on the season. Could have been his first hit of the season, and instead he pops it out or whatever he did, but he was not able to convert on that opportunity. So D-backs today left 17 men on base, 1 for
Wow.
13 with runners in scoring position, and somehow they still pulled out the win. Like, how do you feel, Brett, being on the other side of that?
Well, I would say it stings, and I'm sure the players hate it. But what we have to keep in perspective is it is only the 6th game of the year. So that
Yeah.
right there, you have a lot of room to correct that. But these are the games. See, we just had a podcast the other day. It was a close game, and it was like these are the games that you're not necessarily supposed to win, but the games we were supposed to win last year, we didn't win. And in certain points of the season, and we struggled. We had injury issues. We had pitchers down, and one of the things today, and Mr. Mr. Saheem mentions that Presley's velo is concerning. I do hope his arm is fine now. He addressed this in spring training, not even maybe 2 weeks ago. He said, look, it's spring training. He almost gave the Allen Iverson. This is practice. We're talking about practice here. There's no adrenaline. There's no crowd, but his velo is down. And I was surprised. Now, I'm not Dusty Baker. I'm not Josh Miller. I'm not any pitching coach. But knowing that Seth Beer got a single off him the night before, I would have felt better leaving Montero in to face him because Montero, or I'm sorry, I believe it was Nery's. Wait, who? Okay, Nery. So it was Montero and then Nery's and then Presley. So
Mhm.
Nery's was in there. I personally would have left Nery's back. I would have left him in there and let him at least get Seth Beer and then bring in Presley for like a 2-out save. Presley just right now something's not right. I don't know if how he's feeling. Maybe he caught maybe he caught a little bit of that bug and he's not 100%, but he's not throwing as hard as he can. And when you're a closer, 1 to 2 miles an hour or even 3 miles an hour off of your velocity or off of your, miles per hour that you're throwing, that can be the difference between a ball that's hit and a ball that's missed by a barrel. And Seth Beer, I mean, gosh, this guy had a walk off, and y'all already
Mhm.
gave away free beer. That was our idea. Y'all just took it because we gave y'all him for Zach
Yes.
Greinke, him and Josh Rojas and
Cor-
Buskakis
and Martin.
and Corbin Martin. But Seth Beer, like, why isn't he number 30? Because it should say Beer 30 on his back.
I know, it would be so sick if he was. And why is he not in the lineup every day? Because he's currently our best offensive player. Maybe you can make the argument for David Peralta, but Seth Beer, at every point, I've said this a million times on my podcast, at every point of his career, minor leagues, spring training, the Florida, Arizona League, whatever you call it, the small sample sizes on the major league level, he's hit every checkpoint, every point of his career. He's been an unstoppable offensive player, and he's continued to show it on the major league level. So I know he sucks defensively, but that guy needs to be the everyday universal DH for the D-backs.
There you go. He could be a young Poppy.
Yeah, I would love a young big Poppy. That would be incredible because the D-backs need that power bat in that lineup.
So here's the thing, wrapping up this game 2, congratulations Diamondbacks. It'll be one of your 45, 50 wins.
Hey now. Hey, 52. We're going to
Okay.
72 this year.
We're
Okay,
going to
Brett?
72. I like it. Well,
Yeah.
here's the deal. If you want to bet on how many wins that the Diamondbacks will get, or if Madison Bumgarner will throw a 9-inning no-hitter, which I would love to see because he got ripped on that 7 inning. He's still
He
got a
did.
no-hitter in my book. Bet
Thank
Online
you.
is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, news, including this year's basketball playoffs, the start of the Major League Baseball season. Will the Phoenix Coyotes come to Houston and become the new Houston hockey team? Ooh, did I hit a sore subject there? Bet Online is your continued source for all your sport wagering information for live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today and use your mobile device and learn more about the trends in action. Bet Online, where the game starts.
And we're the Arizona Coyotes, Brett. We're no longer
Oh,
the
I'm
Phoenix
sorry.
Coyotes. It's
Oh,
okay.
my bad. I was going back to the 90s and the Dallas
Yeah.
Stars of Mike Modano days. My bad.
And
My
we're
bad.
locked in to coming to ASU, baby. So they're actually moving closer to my
Yes.
apartment. So I'm not too bad. I'm not too mad about it.
4,000 seat stadium or whatever. I'm
Hey,
joking.
sellouts.
Sell out every freaking game. I go to, hey, you know what? I go to a fight for a hockey game to break out, right? That's what you're
Mm-hmm.
supposed to say with hockey. So, all right, man. So we talked about game 2. It was
Mm-hmm.
glorious for you guys. Good job. Actually, Millard, I've been to that stadium.
Chase.
I was at the stadium when it was, I think it was called Bank One Ballpark when I attended. It was when Woody Williams, Albert Pujols, Jim Edmonds, all of them played for the Cardinals.
Okay.
And a buddy of mine grew up with Woody Williams, and I went to go. I actually bought tickets. I was at some youth pastor convention when I was in youth ministry, and my friend was actually pastoring in the town. He said, "Hey, we're going to meet Woody after the game." I grew up with them, and so I got to go down there. I'm standing
Wow.
right outside the clubhouse, meet all the Cardinals. But that stadium was, to me, it was huge because Minute Maid, we had gone from the Astrodome to Minute Maid, and Minute Maid was like so small, and this place was like just huge. Loved it. I love that stadium. If we ever get back there, I'll let you know. We'll have to hit a game
Oh,
together.
for sure, Brett. You let me know if you come out here to Arizona. I'll show you a good time. We'll hit Old Town or Scottsdale or something.
Uh-oh, that sounds
Uh-oh.
that sounds a lot of fun. I don't know. You might be getting some boomer vibes on that evening because
Hey, we love all ages out here. We accept everyone around here. We just want to
nice.
party. It's all about the
That
vibes.
It's all good, man. So the Astros won 2-1. Now, what's interesting about these games is they're both low scoring. The Astros managed 8 hits in game 1. Hector Neris actually got the win. Presley did get the save, so he didn't look terrible. His velo was still down. But in this game, and there's a guy that you want to talk about that I mentioned early on the show. Right before we started recording. Brantley had a multi-hit game, and then Jose Siri had a multi-hit game. We got our stud shortstop, Jeremy Pena. What do you think about this guy, Jose Siri? He's pretty fun to watch, isn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty fun to watch because I love speedsters. It's a part of the game that is just kind of a dying breed. Like we don't see a lot of speedsters anymore, and if we do, they're not allowed to utilize their speed. So it was fun to see Jose Siri actually be allowed to utilize that speed because when he hit that double late in the game yesterday, right to Pavin Smith, he as soon as that ball left his bat, he was already thinking two. He was already taking that big turnaround first base, and he probably also knew the scouting report on Pavin Smith and knew that he's a first baseman playing right field. So I think as soon as he saw Pavin Smith get that ball, he's like, I'm going to second base, and this guy cannot outthrow me because I think there could have been a play at second that could have been close if it was like a Jake McCarthy or at least a legit outfielder in right field for the D-backs yesterday. But with Pavin Smith out there, I mean, there was no chance you're throwing out Jose Siri. But can you actually explain to me like what you think his potential is? Is he a legit everyday major leaguer? Because I mean, I haven't seen a lot of him. I haven't seen any of him, but I just saw him these past 2 days, and he seemed like a pretty damn good player. So what can you actually tell me about Siri for my fans?
So I'm glad you asked me because one of my friends who follows the minor leagues a lot closer than I do, a guy named Mark White. He goes by GhostStros1 on Twitter. He basically sent this to me today, and it fits in perfectly. Pete Petula with the Astros said in the winter 2021 advanced scouting thinks that we found an elite defender in Siri. We both talked about him and I talked about Chaz and Siri being platoons. And the play that he sent me was the one that he ran down the ball that almost hit the fence. He said it was so effortless, him getting to the ball. Um, Even if he can't hit as often as he can, he's far better than I think Jason Marisnick was or could be. He's got that kind of elite glove. And I know people are like, whoa, stepping on Marisnick toes there. That's kind of crazy because people love Jake Marisnick for his glove. But he's got the ability. He's got a high upside. Um, the problem is the plate discipline. The problem is getting on base, getting hits. Obviously, he hit a 456 foot tank in the first game,
Mm-hmm.
but he's a lot of famine or feast. He can leg out a single. I think Siri's got a lot of tools. I think in the league overall, he's probably underappreciated, undervalued, but he's proving it. See, as a coach, this is what I tell my athletes. It's not about how many minutes you're in the game. It's how you play when you're in the game. So if you get 2 minutes or if you get 2 innings, if you play the best in those 2 minutes or 2 innings, you're going to earn more playing time. I really hope that even in these platoons, that they don't overcoach these splits. That if Jose Siri goes off 3 for 5 and hits a home run and steals 2 bases and steals home, that he gets rewarded a second game in a row. And I know they're playing matchups, and I know they have all the stats and stuff that I don't have in front of me or rolling off my tongue. But when you got a guy that's got a hot hand, why not let him get in a rhythm? Why not let him go out there and have more opportunities? Because even if he doesn't do well the first couple at bats, just throw the second guy in. Tell him, hey man, you need a rest. You did good. Maybe you're trying too hard. But Jose Siri, a lot of people like him in Houston. We don't know what his staying power is. We don't know if he's a trade piece down the road. We don't know if he is the fourth outfielder because Pedro Leon is coming. And in 2023, I predict Pedro Leon will be the starting center fielder for the Houston Astros.
Yeah, you're speaking my language because this is a problem I've had with the D-backs when it comes to managing players because I think they've just leaned too heavily into the splits. There's a righty on the mound. We only have to use our lefty batters today. Or there's a lefty on the mound. Only right-handed batters in the lineup today. Seth Beer is the most consistent offensive player we have, and every time there's a lefty on the mound, he always sits for some random dude that's not going to do anything for the offense. So I think we see this in baseball. We all know about the analytics game, and we need analytics in baseball. We need these stats and we need these numbers, but there has to be a point where we say, hey, that dude is just balling no matter who's on the mound. Let's stop worrying about the splits. Let's stop worrying about all these situational stats. If a dude is on fire, just keep letting him ride it out until he loses that hot streak or whatever it is. So I think we've seen a lot of these managers play too much into the splits, but Siri's definitely going to be a guy I keep my eyes on. I think it's one of the reasons why I wasn't too concerned with how the Astros offseason went with losing Correa, because every season it feels like there's, a guy like Jose Siri that comes up and turns out to be a pretty good, productive player. Kyle Tucker just kind of came out of nowhere last year, at least in terms of my opinion, and he was an all-star level outfielder for the Astros, and they're usually great at drafting. Like, the reason why this Astros tanked worked so well for them is because they hit on those early draft picks. Most teams, when they tank, they can't draft for their life. The Astros hit multiple players during those, really, really down years. So for the Astros, I'm going to be watching Siri, and I totally agree with your point of the splits because I think it's just gone too far sometimes, at least when I'm watching these D-backs games.
And I mean, I get it. I mean, I think from their point of view, they would say, well, we have empirical evidence that says otherwise, or we have
Yeah.
these charts. And so, but to me, if Siri, he's 26, 27, he's a little bit older. He was marinating in the minor leagues for a few years. But when he was at Sugarland, it was funny. I didn't get to interview. He wasn't one of the players I interviewed last year. But after I had actually got through interviewing Jake Myers right before he was called up, I saw Jose Siri sitting outside of the stadium, and he was just texting somebody. I said, "What's up, Jose Siri?" I said, "You're going to be a superstar." He's like, "Thanks, man." I said, "Hey, man, can we get a picture?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. What's up?" And like he snapped a little selfie with me, and they said that he was like a 26-year-old in like a 12-year-old's body. They said this guy comes to He comes to the stadium with swag. He's got his gold. He's got his like Air Jordan practice shoes. He's got all this stuff, and he plays with this exuberance and this excitement. And that's what this team needs. When you lose someone like a Correa, you lose a lot of heart and soul. And not that anyone like Jose Siri replaces that, but this team has more people to fill those holes than most clubs do. I mean, you just take a mainline player. I honestly can't imagine if someone like Aaron Judge leaves the Yankees. I can't see that. Like, I think Aaron Judge means more to the Yankees than the Yankees realize.
Hmm.
And with them not offering him a contract they don't like, just doesn't settle well with that whole situation. But I don't know that the Yankees could withstand losing a big player the way the Astros have. We've lost three big headline players
Yeah.
in a row. And even though Garrett Cole wasn't here established, like Springer, like Correa, we didn't raise them up through the minor league system. I was at that 15 strikeout game against the Rays. My son and I, that was the most amazing pitching performance I've seen in my lifetime. And I saw Mike Scott and Nolan Ryan and Bob Nepper pitch growing up. I mean, I've seen the greats. I've seen Roger Clemens. I saw Roger Clemens duel Greg Maddux at Minute Maid Park. I mean, so I've seen these duels, and this team is built to last. Jim Crane does a hell of a job putting the minor league guys in the right place. They hire smart baseball people. They draft smart players. I mean, we got a kid right now at Sugarland AAA, Corey Julks, out of Friendswood, out of Clearbrook High School, like 10 minutes from my house. This kid squats over 500 pounds. He's an
Jesus.
absolute animal, and he's out there starting right field, and he was killing it last night. He's got so much speed. He's got a cannon. We got so many guys that people don't even know about.
Yeah, I mean, the Astros are usually loaded in their farm system. But I do want to ask you how you think the Astros could replace Carlos Correa and kind of what went on during the offseason. But before we discuss that, Brett, I want to mention thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks and Locked On Astros your first listen every day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, Brett, I do want to ask you about Carlos Correa because you mentioned how much Aaron Judge into the Yankees. And I've done a couple crossovers with Sully Baseball. We've talked about Carlos Correa because he truly believes he's like the heartbeat of the Houston Astros. At least he was, last season when he was there. But how do you feel about Carlos Correa leaving? Do you think he is that important? Do you think he is the dude that was the glue that held the fabric together of the Astros organization? Or do you like, yeah, I love Carlos Correa, but even though he's gone, I think the Astros are still going to be World Series contenders?
Yes, I think they're still World Series contenders. That's a really hard question to just give a straight answer to. It's kind
Mhm.
of like an onion. It's got layers.
It's loaded.
Yeah, it is, because no matter what I say, the listeners of this podcast are going to be upset at me one way or another. So I'm just going to have to go and say, here's the deal. Yeah, right here. Look at this. We got great listeners. Edward throws it up there. Carlos Correa is batting 211 for his 2-4 Twins.
Well,
So
Edward also
fans are.
doesn't. Yeah, Edward also doesn't believe Ketel Marte is an established superstar,
I
fourth in
saw
MVP
that.
voting in 2019, and go check his numbers last year. He was a league leader in almost every stat in 90
So I
games, sir.
saw that, and I purposely didn't mention it because I didn't want to upset you at the early part of the show. I saw you eyeing that comment.
Hmm.
But
Oh
here's the
yeah.
deal: the intangible part of Carlos Correa's game can't be replaced.
Hmm.
The platinum glove winning Carlos Correa can't be replaced. But they believed so much in Jeremy Pena that they did not up the ante or offer Carlos Correa anything after the lockout. And Robert Flores from MLB Network was on our show and told us, I know for a fact they didn't offer anything to him, even though they said they did. And they have a lot of faith in this Jeremy Pena kid. Now, I know it was one series, and I know he didn't do as great this series against him. He still hit the ball really hard. And this kid's got an elite glove. He's got potential to be an all-star at shortstop. Maybe not a platinum glove, but we don't need him to be. We need him to be Jeremy Pena. And I think because of Altuve, because of Bregman, because of Gurriel, because of Maldonado, Brantley, those guys right there, the seasoned veterans. Then you got your Tuckers and you got your Jordans. This team is built to withstand that. And the Astros, they didn't want to. I mean, everyone's like, well, they should have taken at least a flyer and paid him 35.1, let him opt out after the first year. But I don't think they wanted to go through that again, because you do that, then you stunt the growth of one Jeremy Pena. What happens to Jeremy Pena? He spends a whole nother year in AAA, and then I don't know, like, is he your shortstop? And because they thought he was ready now, so they put him in there. It's tough losing him, because he's the type of player you build a statue for. He's a type of player that you want to remember for the rest of your life. But I'm telling you right now, Jose Altuve is the third greatest Houston Astro of all time, behind Biggio and Bagwell. Jose Altuve will be the guy I would put my money on that will be in an Astros uniform his entire career.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I do think Carlos Correa is a stud and like a star shortstop. You can't replace the defense or the intangibles, but I do think you could kind of replace his offensive numbers. I don't think he was, an otherworldly offensive shortstop. I think it
In
did
the
most.
regular season, he had the 2017 year. I think he was like 313. All the other
Mhm,
years, he didn't hit over 279. Now, the playoffs, that
mhm.
whole clutch gene that he's got, he can't replace it, but you still got Altuve. So I don't know if you saw that someone created a graphic of Carlos tapping his watch,
Mhm.
and the word bubble said it's Jeremy Pena time.
Really? I didn't see that.
And it was
That's
Carlos
actually
Correa. I
very
was like,
funny.
wow. So, the bottom line is this: the Gold Glove and Platinum Glove award picture that he took the other day in Minnesota at Target Field, both of the hats he's wearing, they're Astros hats. They're not Minnesota Twins hats. Sorry, Twins. He's one and done. He's not staying in the Twin Cities. So don't fall in love with him too much. He ain't staying.
So any chance we do this little charade again next offseason and maybe the Astros get back on the Correa bandwagon?
A lot of people wonder that. I just don't think, after the Astros weren't willing to go to the Carlos Correa level dollars, that he would come back. It would almost be like, well, when AJ Hinch signed with the Tigers, oh well, he'll be back with the Astros in 2 or 3 years. No, he won't. Especially not the way things went down with him.
Mhm.
I don't think Carlos Correa, because Carlos Correa will absolutely want a 10-year deal. Jim Crane will not sign a player to a 10-year deal for as long as we're alive.
Wow, that's interesting. I do want to know, like, what is the philosophy when it comes to Astros and playing and signing players? Because do they have like a self-imposed cap on how much they want to pay players? Because I mean, Garrett Cole, he got like what, the fattest deal ever for a
Yeah.
pitcher. George Springer got 150 million over 5 years or something. You see what Carlos Correa is getting. Is it just the fact that Astros don't think it's smart to pay players, 30+ million
I
dollars?
mean, there's maybe two players, Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez, who signed 10 to 12-year deals that actually won a World Series after doing so. Nobody else did it. Kevin Brown didn't do it.
Oh, really?
Fernando Tatis, he can't stay off a motorcycle. So, I mean, I'm sorry. George Springer went to the Blue Jays. They missed the playoffs last year. Garrett Cole can't even get out of a wild card game. So, I mean, the proof's of the pudding. What team has been to the ALCS 5 years in a row? Not any other team but the Houston Astros.
Yeah, the Astros are. I don't know if they're my pick. I think a lot of teams are picking the Blue Jays to make it out the
Oh, no, and I
ALCS.
get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I would not be surprised at all if it was the Astros. But I think one of the reasons, or one of the keys that they need to make it back to the World Series, is Lance McCullers. What's the deal with him? Because I'm a big fantasy
So, right.
guy. I'm always seeing it. He's on like the waiver wire, but he's injured. Like, what's going on with McCullers?
So he started throwing. He threw 25 pitches the other day, I think, just on flat ground at 60 feet. And so he's starting back throwing. I think the concern was secretly that maybe he might have to have another surgery, but apparently it was a strain or something. This guy throws with such force and such ferocity that it torques the hell out of his elbow. And, coming off of TJ, here, look, when he's on the mound, he's one of the most dominant pitchers in the game easily. I mean, there's not many people that can say they threw 24 straight curveballs to one team and they didn't hit a single one of them, right?
Hmm.
Lance McCullers will be here, I think, mid-season. I think they're hoping before All-Star break. Personally, I wouldn't want him before the All-Star break. I need him healthy in the playoffs. We need him for a playoff run. Had we had him for a playoff run, Miller, had we had even Justin Verlander last year, I think that Braves and Astros series goes a lot differently. I don't know that we beat them because the Braves were on a tear and it was kind of a thing of destiny, but we were definitely down. We were also down at Alex Bregman, who had a broken hand that we didn't even realize what was going on with that.
Yeah, so do you think this rotation is good enough without McCullers? Because I think that's my biggest hesitation with this Astros team. I just don't think that rotation has that top end talent. I think it has a lot of good quality starters, but I don't know if it has that ace. Unless Justin Verlander at age 40 is coming back with a vengeance this season.
So here is my question to you. What team is the only team in Major League Baseball that has 6 pitchers with a projected 1.5 WAR each?
Well, I just asked you a question, Brett. So why don't you tell me then?
It's the Houston Astros.
Ah,
The Houston
man.
Astros have one of the best rotations in baseball, and there's just the proofs in the numbers. Look at fan graphs, look at projections, look at zips, look at all these different analytical websites. The Astros really have a very, very good rotation, and this is without Lance McCullers on the mound. Jake Odorizzi, if he goes out there and we smash the ball when Jake Odorizzi is up, I mean, he's supposed to be the guy that's not supposed to be having success, and he went in there and he gave you even though it wasn't 6 or 7 innings, he gave you a hell of a start. And these guys not only have been doing that, but our starters and our relief pitchers. Our starters have the lowest ERA through the first several games, and our relief pitchers are doing some of the best on the mound. So this pitching staff, and we've got the offense, okay? This isn't the '05 World Series got swept by the White Sox team where we had all pitching and no offense. When this offense wakes up, you better believe we're coming for the Blue Jays. We're coming for the Mets. We're coming for the Dodgers. Nobody intimidates us in this league because we know exactly what we can do. This is Crush City, make no doubt about it.
I see Edward says Valdez is a top end starter. I guess he didn't watch today's game then. And he also doesn't think Marte is a superstar. Very questionable logic, Edward. Very questionable logic.
Well, I would go with him on Valdez. I really think Valdez has ace stuff. He has number one. Mike Trout has only said there's one pitcher in the league that has the most devastating curveball, and it was Framber Valdez. And
Interesting.
he does have this elite stuff. Literally 2 years ago, he went and saw a psychiatrist that helped him focus because every time he got on the mound, he started losing it. Right, he would walk a guy and he would lose it. And I'll share this quick story with you. When we were in AAA back in 2019, this was before the Zach Greinke trade. We had interviewed Josh Rojas, Brandon Bielak, and Colin McKee. Carlos Correa was there for a rehab start, and Framber Valdez was there on the mound. Framber Valdez walked 6 batters. My son is sitting next to me in the press box, and he looked at me. He was 11 at the time or 10. He said, "Dad, the pitcher looks like he's nervous." So what do you mean? He goes, "He doesn't look comfortable." He could see the stress that Framber Valdez had on the mound. He's not that same pitcher. He is a
Mhm.
completely different pitcher. He's a remade pitcher. He's going to struggle again, like I talked about with his release point and his arm slot. It's very complicated. So if it's just slightly off, it throws everything off.
Yeah, I think Valdez is good. I just don't know if I would classify him as a number one or number two. But I do think he's a pretty good pitcher. But I got one last question for you,
Yes.
H Town, before we wrap up today, and it has to do with today's game. We saw extra innings once again, and we saw the runner on second. I just want to know your thoughts on that because I'm pro doing anything that will make the game end faster. I think after 9 innings, like if it's not a tie, get me out the ball game as quickly as possible. Like I'm okay if we just went extra innings, bases loaded, you get 1 out or 2 outs or whatever, make it sudden death. I don't care. I'm trying to get out the ball club. So I don't know if the runner in second actually helps that because we saw the Astros go up 1-0 in the extra innings. And then what did the D-backs try to do? They just tried to bunt, move the guy over, and then just wanted to do a little sack fly and keep the game going. So I don't know if it actually speeds up the game, but I'm pro anything in extra innings that will make the game faster. If you just want to make it a tie game after 9 innings, I mean, we're going to play 162 of these. I'm okay with that result as well.
So I think I started the season hating it, but I think it's inevitable. It's here. We might as well embrace it, right? If you're not going to do a home run derby like a shootout in soccer,
Yeah, that would be
because this
dope.
isn't soccer, that'd be kind of cool. But you would have to take your guys that hit the least amount of home runs. It'd have to actually
Oh,
be a challenge. It wouldn't be like your Jordan
oh.
Alvarez's because you don't want to hurt your. I mean, because why do people not go to the home run derby? Because they don't want to get injured, because they know how much work it is. Those dudes break sweats during the home run derby. It's supposed to be fun, right? It's actual work. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the guy starting on second base if it actually proves out to be it. I just the reason why I guess I don't like things is the reason why I don't like that rule. And I'll wrap it up with this.
Mm-hmm.
It puts undue stress on the pitcher that he wouldn't then had that situation not be there. And to
Okay.
me, I don't think that's fair to the pitcher. But just like I tell my students in the classroom, life's not fair. So that's just more adversity you have to fight through. I know the pitchers, for the most part, don't like it, but you know what they're going to do? They're going to go out and they're going to shove and they're going to do their best to win.
And I would love the home run derby and extra innings, and it would be cool if we went with pitchers to hit the home runs because the
Ooh,
D-backs got one of the best guys in the league to do that, and Madison Bumgarner. That's how I wrap it up today. Mic drop, boom.
nice. I love it. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Millard, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter at CreatorThomas24 for my personal account, or just look up Locked On Diamondbacks for both Twitter and Instagram for the podcast handle.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm H-Town Wheelhouse with Locked On Astros. I'm hanging out. And of course, Eric couldn't be here, but he sends his thoughts. Millard, I know we love having you on. And I love that our guests are interacting with you. We have some fun banter back and forth. We got people like Kaylee, Mr. JC Willie. We got Edward. We got Mr. Saheem and the whole crew
I
here.
got to see Edward one of these days. Me and Ed, we're
Uh-oh.
going to have a one-on-one, I think.
That's right. Well, hey, come to Houston and we'll buy you a brew, okay?
Hey.
For all of us here at Locked On Astros and the Locked On Network with Locked On Diamondbacks, Millard, the incomparable Shane Thomas, it's a good night and good luck, Diamondbacks, and go Astros.